Temp check. What kind of summer are we having this year? A family road trip summer? A beach bum summer? Or a wake me up when the sun sets summer? With Instacart, choose your own adventure and skip the shopping side quests. Where available, you can get ice cream delivered to your hotel, sunscreen to the pool, or cold brew to your bed. Well, door, in as fast as 30 minutes. Wherever you find yourself this summer, you can get the goods. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
Somebody please think of the children!
And welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly mini-sode where we dig into the things that we've been, I believe, just watching recently. I'm Terry.
I'm Mary Beth. Sorry, it's always that half second before the door I see the cat through the door that I'm not sure if it's a ghost or not. But I am Mary Beth, and my cat Misu just joined us. And this week we are chatting about a coming-of-age gothic horror story, the latest from David Fincher, the most divisive movie of the year, a bizarre true crime series, the Fright Night remake director's new film, and Witches in the Woods. Get ready, y'all. I think Terry and I are going to fight this episode. There's like at least 2 instances where we might fight, so get ready.
Dukes are up.
Like one of the first things Terry says to me when I log on is like, how divisive do you want this episode to be? I'm like, oh really? So get ready.
Get ready.
Get ready. We're here. But I would love to hear about a coming-of-age gothic horror story because I love those. So tell me more.
Yeah, so this is Raging Grace.
Oh, yeah!
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
From Paris Zarcilla, I believe. Zarcilla? I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce the last name. But it's a story about an undocumented Filipina immigrant who is basically doing like housekeeping maid type work for a bunch of rich white people, and she doesn't really have like a home, and so when they're gone, she figures out who is out of town, and she and her daughter Grace end up staying at their homes, and she is struggling to find money to get a visa made for her so that she and her daughter can stay. The daughter's father's not in the picture. You start to realize that maybe he's not the best person. She kind of gets the deal of a lifetime, it seems, up front, where this woman named Catherine hires her to basically housekeep over this big, giant Gothic manor where Catherine's uncle is dying of cancer and is bedridden and is unconscious and is on oxygen. And Catherine is feeding him a bunch of pills, and wants Joy to caretake of the house and does not know that Grace is there. Grace is hiding. And there's a lot of tension in the beginning about like trying to keep her child hidden from Catherine while also, taking care of the house. And then there's like a mystery that starts to unfold about the man who's dying in bed. And it sort of goes from there. I don't want to spoil it. There's a lot of twists and turns. I was really taken aback by some of the things that happen in this film. And the last shot of the film actually brought tears to my eyes because it just was such an emotional moment for me. But this is a really good Gothic horror story. I believe it's coming out as of this recording in theaters, and it's going to be hitting VOD. And I really recommend it. Did you liked it?
I did for the most part. I didn't really understand why it was called Raging Grace. Not because like it feels like it was a cool name, but like it doesn't fit the movie. I don't think it's as much about the daughter. Like the title makes you think it's about the daughter. It's really about the mom. And I don't. There's some stuff I think basically it's a story that we need from the perspective of like these family, like these like a single mom who is an undocumented worker in Britain, and like I think it's a really important story. I think like it doesn't all come together as well for me, but I think there's some really good ideas in it. I think there is some really scary stuff in it. Like the ending, I wanted more of how like the ending is. But still, it's worth seeking out, especially because like it's a kind of film that we don't have in the genre, and I think it's really smart. I would like to see him do more work. Paris Sarcia, I think he's a really good director. I think like just the script is not as strong as it could be, but that it's not necessarily.
It does meander in spots.
Yeah, I just think it loses focus a little. But again, it doesn't. It's not. It should not deter you from seeing it. I think I saw it at South by Southwest.
And like I said, I cried at the last image of the film. It like really,
it goes to some really it has conversations that we don't have, like people don't have, and that's really important and really awesome to see in the horror genre, especially with some really good fucking scares in it too. Like it's not like it's scary. I think it's got some good scare. Like it's a good ghost story or not really ghost, whatever. It's not a spoiler. Because it's not really a ghost story, but yeah.
It's a fun gothic story.
Yeah.
A new twist on familiar things, I would say.
Yes, very much so. It's people of color in a gothic story. You never see people of color in a gothic story.
Kind of in the same vein of a new twist on a familiar thing, potentially. I want to hear about the latest from David Fincher.
Yeah, so I'm on my catching up with films for your consideration. I think you are as well. In the FYC critics circle stuff, like in that grind of trying to just like catch all the things. And because we're so focused in horror, I have not seen a lot of things that are like not outside of horror. So I've been trying to watch some of the stuff that's come out. I'm getting a million different screeners right now. So I'm like, okay, I can watch this. So I watched The Killer, which is it's on Netflix now, but it's the latest from David Fincher. And I was kind of bummed. This is a movie I will give a bad review on because it's David Fincher, and I think David Fincher can handle a middling review from me. I think Netflix can handle a middling review. Because I really like David Fincher. Like, I like a lot of his work. I love Seven. I love Gone Girl. I love Zodiac. So I was excited. Michael Fassbender is kind of a shitty person. We're going to lay that one out there just so we don't forget that he is kind of a abuser. And by kind of, I mean he is. But he is the best part about this movie, which is like a bummer. He's a good, like, look, we know he's a talented actor. And he brings, and The Killer follows a guy who is a paid gun, a hired gun. He fucks up a job, and after he fucks up the job, these subcontractors, it's like the guy who paid him to kill the guy who killed the fuck up. Hold on. Sorry. It's like, I sound like an idiot trying to explain this. Because it's like, there's so many weird layers. Like, there was layers of this movie. Like, who fucking paid who to kill who? Basically, the big rich man who didn't get his way with the first killer, hired two more killers to fuck with his girlfriend. Or fuck with him. But they ended up messing with his girlfriend, who is a Hispanic woman, because he takes refuge in the Dominican Republic. And because he wasn't home, they assaulted and raped his Dominican girlfriend. And then he decides to go on a revenge. And, like, it's just... It's, like, kind of boring in a way that I find offensive. And I know that sounds, like, dramatic. But I'm like, okay, that's not... I just expect something more from David Fincher. And this was just, like, John Wick, but way less entertaining and way less, like, stylized. It feels like he was trying to do something different with the kind of hired hand revenge movie. And the first 20 minutes are fucking incredible. The first 20 minutes are like a Rear Window type vibe where he is just watching through the scope of a gun and like narrating. And the narration is like ridiculous. This like Fassbender's character, the titular killer, is like a fucking weirdo. He's like Patrick Bateman without the money, or like without like the glitz. And it's really, and I liked that because I'm like, okay, so we're kind of playing around with like this guy's kind of like an over inflated sense of self, and he's kind of an idiot, but he knows how to shoot a gun, and that's all he knows how to do. And I was like super into that. And then as soon as like things kind of fall apart, it just becomes an action movie. And it's like a well-directed action movie, but like it was so interesting in how it structured itself at the beginning. And then like the last 2/3, and I was like, I mean, it's fine, but the narration's gone that made it funny. Like everything that made it interesting from the beginning just goes away. And I was like, well, that's kind of a bummer. And like, it's not a bad movie. It's just like, you expect something.
You just expect more.
You expect more from Fincher. And you don't just expect another, like, oh, God, a guy's girlfriend, a guy's girlfriend, aka the woman written into the movie to get assaulted, has 2 seconds of screen time to explain that, like, I would never betray you. And then he goes on a rampage to, like, avenge her. And, like, I'm bored with that. Like, that's the revenge movie we're making. Like, the guy is such a schlub. It would have been so much funnier if they did something stupid to him, like fucked up his car, or like did like burned his house down, not raped his girl. Like, it just didn't fit the vibe of the movie, and so I didn't the movie doesn't really know what it's trying to do. I think some people love it, and that's fine. I can see why. Yeah. I'm a hater of some of these movies, as we're gonna get to in a bit here. I'm like a hater of some of these popular movies, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I think I'm like a little bit bored. I think I've watched too much weird, fucked up horror shit that, like, I'm going back to more mainstream, and I'm like, whoa, where's the kid getting killed? Where's, like, the dog mauling the little kid?
I mean, I completely understand that, because I'm in the same place with music right now. I am struggling to find some kind of music that brings me joy. Like, everything that I think should bring me joy is not. And so, like, I'm in this very weird funk musically. So I can relate. But also, speaking of music, how is the score? Because it's Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
It's good, but, like, it doesn't stand out in the way that a lot of the other scores do. Like, it makes sense that they work together, but, like, 'cause I was excited, because I love the music work that they do for Fincher. But, like, it just, it doesn't really, like, stand out. There's a couple moments where it does, and it sounds good, but it's just, yeah.
So Purpurina in chat talks about, part of why RR hit her so hard is that it was such a joy to be surprised every turn. And, you know, I really need to sit down and watch that movie.
What the fuck? We haven't even gotten to the actual divisive parts of the episode yet. But, like, I agree with that, though. Like, it is so joyful and so... It's, like, it's so happy, and it's just, like, so... Yeah, it's happy. Surprising. It's, like, it's just surprising to see so much joy and, like, love between two men and as a friendship. And, like, it leans into a lot of stuff that you never see.
Yeah. I need to watch it. I do. I know I do.
That's The Killer. It's on Netflix. Like, if you like Fincher, check it out. It's just, like, mid, which is a bummer for me. I don't like saying a Fincher movie is mid, but it's kind of mid. Speaking about a movie I also thought was mid,
All right.
The most divisive movie of the year?
So I've seen a lot of discourse about this film on Twitter, and I know that you and I have differing opinions about this. So I was like, should we talk about this? And I think we should. So we both watched Saltburn. We both got screeners for it and watched Saltburn. If you just heard Mary Beth's Raspberry, you know which one of us did not care for the movie if you've not been on social media. I want to know. I want to hear from you.
From me first? Oh God. Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right. So as many of you know, and if you don't know, I'll tell you.
One thing. We both did not like Promising
Young
Woman.
I was just going to say, as many of y'all know, as I have never been shy to share, I hated Promising Young Woman. Promising Young Woman is a stain upon the rape revenge genre. That sounds rude, but I have It has been on site for me with her. So when I heard this was coming out, I was like, okay, I have to go in as, like, unbiased as possible. Like, I need to give her a chance. Like, I gotta. Like, I gotta.
Yep.
Whatever. And, well, she knows how to make it look pretty, but I don't think she really knows how to write a script to save her life. Like, I'm so sorry. I think she knows how to direct certain things really well. I do not think she should be writing her scripts. I think she should be co-writing. The problem I have with Saltburn, and I liked it more than Promising Young Woman. Like, I don't hate this movie. I don't despise it. I don't, like, it's just, like, I think it's boring. Which is weird to say about a movie like this where, like, fucking Barry Keoghan drinks Jacob Elordi's, like, bath cum juice. Like, you would think that boring...
I want to slurp on your old bath water.
Don't you love that, listeners, that beautiful sound I just made? But, like, I liked the idea a lot, and it's kind of like Teorema, which is a Pasolini movie, but it's... I can't, like, share because it, like, spoils Saltburn if I explain what this... But, like, basically in Teorema, a stranger comes into a family and starts seducing them one by one, and shit gets weird. Saltburn is not exactly...
Wait, when is this movie?
Teorema?
How do you spell that?
Teorema. It was 1968.
I have not seen this.
I only know about this because of grad school, pretentious bullshit, etc. But, like, this is a Pasolini movie, and it's, like, super erotic. And they're very similar, but Saltburn does not even remotely stick the landing in terms of, like... what it's trying to say, because I think she underutilized Barry Keoghan, which is a fucking disgrace. I think she really knows how to make it look pretty, but, like, she does not, to me, understand how to make her, like, lead character's motivations actually make sense and be relatable to me. What do you think? And how do you feel about the movie?
So... I get all of your criticisms. My biggest complaint about the movie is that I don't understand why it was filmed in 4:3.
Yeah, why? Like, what is that? Like, I don't... Like, and look, I let... Carter Smith filmed Swallow in 4:3. I was into that. This, no sense. There was, like, no sense of intimacy. Like, what? I think there's, like, a reason that modern... film directors should shoot in 4:3. It works in, like, The Lighthouse. It worked in Raging Grace, which is another movie we talked about today, that is filmed in 4:3. It worked in Carter Smith's movie. It can give things a claustrophobic feel to it, but this is not a claustrophobic movie. No.
This is a grandiose, lavish movie. And so that was the first thing that it really kind of bothered me, because I made a prediction when I was watching this. I was watching with my roommate Cass, and I was like, I have a feeling that once we get to Saltburn, it's going to open up to widescreen, because I felt like that would be some kind of pretentious thing that she would do. But no, she decides to keep it in 4:3 the entire time. I do not understand why. I do not. That is my biggest thing that I was sitting there going, why is this a choice? What are you trying to do here? Because it felt pretentious. It really did.
It is. Hi.
That said, as what I think this movie vibed with me a whole lot is I don't know how to say this without being creepy, but, like, I kind of and I don't mean this to the same extent as Barry Keoghan's character goes through, but, like, I felt like I was Barry going to college. I was, like, such a closeted case. I was put into this jock hallway full of, like, men who would parade around their sexuality. There was this guy that across the hall from me that would, like, lean in my doorway just in his boxers, and it just... So, like, I could feel that intense, like, feeling that Barry was having for Jacob Elordi's character, and the kind of puppy dog way that he was, like, following him around.
I won't ask because it'll spoil. We'll talk later. Jacob Elordi rules in this movie. I will say he's incredible. Jacob Elordi's performance in this, like, this is his movie. I don't care what anyone else says. Like, and again, I love Barry Keoghan, but like, he is perfect in this movie. Like, perfect.
I honestly think that he is going to be one of those actors that is going to easily win an Oscar one day, because he knows how to weaponize his good looks, but he also, there's something going on underneath. And I think, and I thought this way ever since I first saw him in the Mortuary Collection. And
oh my God, I always forget that I always forget he's in that movie.
Yeah. And like, that was my first introduction to him. And I was like, this guy the camera loves him, but he also is a very good actor, and there's something going on underneath that beautiful face of his.
Him in Euphoria, I'm scared of him. But then he does like these roles, and I'm like, I'm scared of you. I don't know what you're capable of, you fucking scary man.
I know. I do kind of wish he wasn't getting typecast as sort of like the villain role, because like I feel like every movie I've seen him in, he is that way. And from what I understand, I haven't seen Priscilla. I've got a screener, but I feel that that's the same way that's going on with that. But yeah, so it's
a little bit more nuanced here, and with this at least.
Absolutely. But I immediately felt like it brought me back to going to college and being in love or in lust with this guy that was across the hall that like I would follow around like a puppy dog. And so there's that aspect to it. I also think that if Barry Keoghan was a woman character, this would be one of those good for her movies. And I think that there's an interesting dynamic here with his character, and that sort of like good for her feel that we kind of celebrate.
Interesting. Oh, hi. Am I gonna...
There's one plot related thing towards the end that like kind of, I see a kitty.
She just jumped on my lap. Sorry.
She's like, hi, I have thoughts too. But there's one little plot thing towards the end that like I think does ruin a little bit in terms of motivation, and I will agree, I think the script is probably the most weak part of the film.
It just like, I couldn't buy into the whole thing. Like, once you kind of, there's a reveal, I'm like, oh. And then I'm like, there's just some stuff with it where I'm like, are we queer baiting? Are we not queer baiting? Like, I don't think we are, because like...
This is not a condemnation of the movie, but I am pissed off at the marketing for this film because everyone is leaning into the queerness. We have like the things all over social media. Like, we have like all the things on social media of like Barry and like Jacob Elordi like leaning into each other like they're gonna kiss and then pulling back as if it's like a big joke. There's like so many different things of like them being a couple, like being shipped together on social media. And then you have like Jacob Elordi talking about how honored he was that Barry was guzzling his cum from the bath. Like there's some weird things that bother me as a gay person because it feels like we are trying to gay bait with the marketing of this film, and that pisses me off. Well,
and I also think this movie, like, it's not horny, or it's horny.
Oh, I think it's incredibly horny.
It's horny. It's restrained horny, which isn't a bad thing, but people need to stop saying it's like this shockingly erotic movie. I'm like...
Well, I'm starting to realize that like all the people on social media that are watching this for the first time are such babies.
I know. I'm like, oh, you haven't watched any, like, you haven't consumed, like...
So there's a lot of young people that keep popping up on my TikTok For You page that are like, went to go see it as a girls' night because of Jacob Elordi, and then like their reaction afterward. And I'm like...
That's fair. I guess if you're like a girly who likes Euphoria and sees it and you're like, oh my god, like Barry Keoghan is like doing something weird to the ground. Like, what is happening? Like, fair. I don't know. Like, so yeah.
But also because I really disliked the third act, shall we say, of Promising Young Woman. I was really enjoying it up until the third act. But that third act, like, just soured and just shat on everything that I was enjoying about the film. And so, like, I think that might also help because I was kind of expecting to be very put off by this film, and I really enjoyed it. And so Purpurina asked, do y'all think that this will be one of those movies where the hype might be a detriment for some people's experiences? Absolutely. Especially with, like, if you're going into it with all those TikToks showing up on your For You page of, like, people being so surprised and horrified and titillated about it. I don't think this is that kind of movie unless you are not used to these types of films. Because it definitely was not as bananas as I think a lot of people have made it out.
This is going to be one of those annoying movies that's on every fucking, like, most disturbing movies ever made list when you, like, when it's, like, someone hasn't ever seen a movie with, like, actual sex in it. You know what I mean? Like, right. Watch Stranger by the Lake. Then we'll talk.
Then we'll talk.
I haven't seen it yet, but, like, Rotting in the Sun. Like, watch Rotting in the Sun. Like.
Oh, Rotting in the Sun. Ooh. You want to talk about some kind of transgressive queer cinema? That is another one of those.
It's just like this annoying thing where it's like she's going to get all this credit for like making something transgressive when it's not transgressive. And it's just like annoying to me. I'm like, and you know what? Great. Women make bad art. Love that for her. Like, or mediocre art. Like, that's awesome. But at the same time, like, do us all a favor and just, like, let us make transgressive art and, like, step aside. And, like, if you're gonna, like, commit. Like, if you're gonna try to make transgressive art, commit. Or if you don't even know what transgressive art is, then, like, admit it. You know what I mean? Like, she thinks that she's making she's making mainstream transgressive media, which I guess is, like,
absolutely
important in one way. But on the other hand, it makes me want to fucking tear my eyes out of my skull. Which, like...
But on the other hand, though, I do wonder if these films will, in the same way that like American remakes of Japanese films broaden my horizons to what's out there, that maybe these might be babies first, and then they'll realize that there's a whole world out there of fascinating. I mean, that's.
I would rather that be the case for Saltburn than with Promising Young Woman. I would rather Promising Young Woman disappear. But if this is someone's introduction, then that's awesome. And like, look, I'm not trying to be a shit about Emerald Fennell. Like, sorry, I have a grudge. What can you do? But hey, good for her for getting me angry. Love that. So
again, I think that she's doing a very good job of being a provocateur, a female provocateur, which we don't.
Yeah, that's
get
true.
A lot of. There's
that's a good
point.
Ones. No, that's a very good point.
I do think that, I mean, she's getting us talking. Like, we have spent a good amount of this episode talking about this film.
I mean, so I was going to see your movie regardless, so it's like when I hate watch Quentin Tarantino, so maybe you're right. Pisses me off, but you might be right. She pisses me off, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. See it? It's one of those movies where I'm like, see it and make up your mind. Like, I don't think I can tell you how you're going to feel about it. I don't, like, which is, I think I mean, like, that is impressive for her to do that. Like, it is not a movie I think I would be able to tell you how to, like, truly feel about it.
Saltburn. All right, so I want to hear about this bizarre true crime series.
Speaking of bitches who be crazy, I watched perhaps one of the most unhinged documentaries series I've ever seen, and it is called Love Has Won, The Cult of Mother God, which...
My roommate has been talking about this.
It's goddamn nanograms, because, like, this... Okay, let's start from the beginning here. A couple of years ago, a mummified woman, was found in a home wrapped in Christmas lights with her followers around her being like, don't touch her body. And they were like, no, we have to touch her body. That is a mummified corpse. And they were like, what's the fuck? This is like the jumping off point of like the discovery of this woman's mummified corpse. And this was the corpse of Amy Carlson, who was the leader of the Love Has Won cult, where she proclaimed herself to be Mother God. And that the Galactics, who include Robin Williams, were going to come to get her and like leave the world and like banish all of our suffering. And basically come get her via UFO. And she started this. So
sure.
This whole documentary kind of documents. It's 3 episodes, so it's really short, but it's like how the cult happened, how this crazy shit happened with her body, and then what's happened, and then a little bit what's happened after. Because she got really sick, and they said, no, she doesn't need to go to the doctor, and they, like, gave her a bunch of silver that was supposed to be, like, potentially good for you, and she basically just, like, poisoned herself to death and didn't eat. And the documentary is looking at, you know, how she became this way, the followers she accumulated, why she and because she's another one of these examples of, like, cults that got started online because of live streams and
right.
found a lot of followers just through the internet. And there's a lot of connections to, like, QAnon conspiracies and things, and there's just, like, a lot of really wild shit. And she was Mother God, and then she would have Father God, and there were many Father Gods until she found the Father God, because there was Father Multiverse and Father God. And
what?
It's bananagrams. And there's, like, the thing there's so much footage of her because this happened so recently, and there's so many videos of, like, her descent and how she's getting sick, and they're like, oh, she's seeing things, like she's having visions, but I'm like, she's just really sick. And it's really scary because, like, all of her followers are, like, younger people, and they document her death in they show videos of, like, them with her corpse, and, like, how they were, like, playing music to her corpse and thinking it was alive, and, like, and these people, because she died, I think only about a year ago, these people still believe in her. Like, every person that was, like, this, and that's what's, like, really wild about this, is because they're interviewing people, like, while they still believe in her, and they don't know what to do with themselves because their god has died, which is fucking nuts to think about.
I got nothing. I don't know what to say.
It's just, like, there's not a lot to say other than, like, it's really sad. Like, it is really sad, Paprina. Like, I'm saying, like, it's, like, I'm talking about it like it's, like, a sensational, but it's really sad because these people still believe in her, and, like, obviously it's very sad that she had mental health problems and this happened to her, but, like, her followers also believe in her. They're still doing live streams about her, and, like, I don't know. It's really fascinating and really sad, and it's one of those interesting series that, like, is obviously capitalizing on something in the news, but I also think it's showing that, like, how the internet is creating these really weird communities. And I also think we don't hear a lot about women in these kinds of roles and what they're doing.
Thinking,
like,
the fact that she had multiple men
partner,
like, that's that you don't see that a whole lot in cults. It's usually a man that has a harem of women.
Yep. And so it wasn't about sex, but, like, yeah, it was just, yeah, it's another one of these, like, really, oh my god, Paprina, girl boss, girl god. Amen. It's, like, it's really sad. It's also very interesting. So if that is something that, like, you're quasi interested in, it's 3 episodes on Max that just finished airing. The last episode just aired this week. So give it a shot. Again, like, it's not a happy watch and it doesn't make you feel good. So, you know, be warned on all of that stuff. But it is a really interesting look. It's directed by Hannah Olsen, so it's directed by a woman. And I think it's got a really interesting kind of empathetic lens in how they speak to it's like current members and how they talk about her, but the way that they frame it is like, just make up your mind about, like, they don't try to paint them, they try to be as neutral as possible, but it really, in doing that, it makes them all seem like very unwell and like they need help, which is sad to watch, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's what I've been watching.
Wow. Wow.
Probably completely different change of topic to the Fright Night remake director's new movie, but tell me about that.
I just think it's important for people to know that Craig Gillespie, who has directed Cruella, I, Tonya, also directed Fright Night, and his new movie, Dumb Money, which is about the GameStop meme stock, is absolutely fantastic. We're going to be seeing probably both of us doing a lot of FYC talk on for the next month or so, because there's a lot that we need to get caught up on. As Mary Beth said, this was one of them that I've been wanting to see, and I have to say, This was the most fascinating movie that I've seen so far this year. Not my favorite, but it was one of the most fascinating movies I've seen this year.
Okay.
Because it does such a good job of taking something that is so boring, stocks, and turning it into something that is very interesting and yet explains things to the layman, me, on what actually went down. And so for those that don't know, GameStop was a joke stock that was like selling for like $3.95 a stock at one point, which I'm told is low. I don't know these things, but it seemed low, and I was told that it is low. And this guy, played by Paul Dano, Keith Gill, believes in this stock for some reason and decides that he is going to start filming YouTube videos and posting on this Wall Street Reddit forum about how much he believes in the stock. And he ends up creating this wave of disenfranchised and people that are fed up with billionaires deciding to invest in this stock. And the stock goes from being like $3.95 to, I want to say, over $400 at one point per stock.
Oh.
And it ended up it's such an interesting thing because it ended up destroying some hedge fund managers, and I don't 100% know why, but it ended up destroying their careers and ended up like pointing out how Robinhood is a very not so great company for people that are buying stock.
Okay.
There's like a lot of machinations going on in the back, because at one point, when the stock keeps going up and up and up, they turn off the ability to buy more stock because of Citadel, which is a financial group. And this movie is stacked. So it has Paul Dano, Pete Davidson, American Ferrara, Vincent D'Onofrio, Nick Offerman, Seth Rogen, Sebastian Stan, Shailene Woodley. Like, it is a Dane DeHaan. It is a stacked, a stacked cast. And it does such a fantastic job of showing how this stock has become such a fascinating look at the dichotomy between those of us that are, barely making it and barely surviving, to the billionaires that are raking in millions of dollars on stocks. And I thought it was very fascinating. I thought it was very easy to follow for someone that knows nothing about it. And it was very funny. And it was very fascinating. I really enjoyed it.
I'm excited to watch it. I've heard really good things about it, and it looks good. So I'm excited to, because again, it's not really like my kind of movie, but it sounds like
Same.
It. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. I really obviously know nothing about what has come out this year outside of horror movies. I've watched like 200 horror movies and literally nothing else. So.
But speaking of horror movies, let's talk about Witches in the Woods, Mary Beth.
Yeah.
What is our found footage pick this week?
So our found footage pick this week is one of my personal favorites, and I'm curious to hear what Terry is about to say about this movie. This is Crone Wood.
Oh.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm curious. So Crone Wood is found footage, obviously. And sorry, my ear just started ringing. That's very bizarre. It follows a couple, or not really a couple, two people on their first date, and the date they end up going camping on their first date. And when they're camping, they stumble across some weird things happening, and things just get kind of weird. And Terry, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this movie.
So if you haven't seen it, maybe pause the recording if you don't want spoilers, because we're going to talk about spoilers for this one. I think, well, there's a couple things. I can understand why you're fascinated with it, because it does do some interesting things with perspectives in terms of handing like the perspective off to other people in terms of the camera choices. From the very first scene, I knew where the movie was heading. I knew immediately that she was a witch, that she was going to lure him for some kind of sex thing. Like, I knew immediately that this was going to happen.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I knew. I was like, I told Cass we're watching it, and I was like, okay, so she's obviously one of these witches. She's luring him in, and then like, and I was like, it's probably some sex thing because the movie starts out very sexual. There's like literally the very first thing that we're filming is a pair of people having sex on a beach, and then we're talking about the size of the main character's penis. So like I was like, okay, this is sexual, A, and 2, she knows way too much about these witches. She is obviously luring him in because who in their right mind would go camping on a first date for someone that you don't even know? So like
Fair.
Once I got there, I was just honestly waiting for the movie to get to the end with where things were going to get revealed because I knew where it was heading. And so that was my big problem with Crone Wood, is that I those are kind of predictable for me.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Fair enough.
There's some interesting things in here though. It was giving me Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes in the house. I really like that. I did enjoy the switching of perspective now that we are following the witch's camera, although I did wonder in the like who's watching this. Like we're watching this obviously, but whoever is watching this really decided to like stitch together two different. So
don't worry about it.
I was curious about.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
So like that was it, and then the ending was giving me Outlast vibes, and so I was kind of digging that. But yeah, opening moment, I was like, well, this is what's gonna happen, and then I was kind of sad to see that that's where it was going.
Fair, very fair. I love it because I think it is one of the only movies to really represent male sexual assault and put it squarely on like female shoulders, and also playing with consent on camera, because there's a lot of that like filming sex like secretly and then she consent. Like I think that I get what you mean. I think there's so much cool stuff going on here, though, with, like, gender and sexuality that we never see in found footage, that I think it, like, executes that in a really interesting way that kind of usurped any, like, predictability for me. I think I was so excited about how they were playing with the camera in an unpredictable way. That's why I love this movie so much. But I get that. I do understand.
Completely understand.
Yeah.
I completely understand from your perspective as someone that is very interested in how found footage is filmed and how like the perspectives changes. I did make a note about the blah 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 blah, the part of consent, and I also did. I mean, enjoy is the wrong word, but I did like the fact that we have. Whenever we see male rape, it is typically a man raping another man.
Yep. And it's like humiliation and everything. It's not like... You don't see women raping men. People think it is not possible. Liars. That's not correct. And I think it's important, to see that. Yeah. I know it's difficult, and I know that, like, you know, people could argue about if this is rape, but this is rape. Like, we're just gonna say, like, he's raped, and they filmed the whole thing, and the women are, like, really excited about it. And I love a movie where we have showing women being rapists. Like, I know that sounds silly, but like as a sexual assault survivor, but like it's a reality about sexual assault that we need to confront, and no one really does that.
It's something that doesn't get talked about a whole lot. In terms of like male assault, being a man being assaulted. Yeah.
So I think this movie is like super confronting that head on in a way that you never see. And I deeply appreciate that the found footage horror genre is one of the few places where that conversation seems to be happening. And I just think that's cool. And I think it's a movie that more people should see. Like, yeah, it's not perfect, but I also think it's doing some such interesting things with the form that it not being, you know... This is why found footage films are so interesting, and like they get buried and no one sees them, but it's like there is like really cool stuff out there. Again, like... I've dug through a lot of crap, but that's why you listen to the podcast. So we give you the curated stuff that you may or may not like, obviously, but it's more likely to at least might get something out of it. Wait, Purpurina, your dissertation was about male sexual assault, like in film? I know by women, not in film. Okay. That's right. Not everyone went to school for film stuff. That's wild. But important. It's an important topic, everybody. Anyway. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you didn't love it, but I'm glad that you appreciated the stuff that I think is interesting about it.
Yeah, don't apologize. I think sometimes we do often agree on a lot of stuff, and so I always think it's interesting the times when we don't.
Me too.
And I think it causes better conversation, to be perfectly
We always
honest.
joke we're gonna fight, but like we never fight because we like our opinions.
They're opinions.
Yeah, but you love predicting things. You poopy.
I can't help it.
I know.
It is a problem that I have had since literally, and we talked about this back in the M. Night Shyamalan Sixth Sense movie. After that movie, I can't help but my brain just will think about the plot structure and think about what the movie is going to try to do. I can't help it. And this was one of those times where I was like sitting there going, I just wish it was doing something different.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I also think I better.
That's why I avoid trailers like the plague, and that is true with me too. I do not like. I will sometimes watch like the first 3 or 4 seconds of it, being like, okay, I'm in, but I cannot, because if I've seen a trailer, I will be watching the movie and I'll be like, okay, well, this scene hasn't happened yet.
I do the same thing. I'm the worst about that.
Happened yet.
Mm-hmm. I also say I do spoil. It's like I feel like I spoil it a little bit when I talk about like to people like this is a really good movie about male sexual assault, because I feel like that kind of primes you. I saw this movie not knowing.
That did sort of tip.
Like I didn't know anything about this movie, so I think that's also why. But I shouldn't probably start off with that as like the teaser. But it's also really interesting, so I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, that's true. It is a true. It is. I do want to put that that warning out there for people. But so we are continuing our found footage series next week, and I'm very excited, Terry, because you are watching another movie for the first time that I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on. What are we watching?
We are watching The Tunnel, which I'm very excited to see because they were playing it at the Unnamed Footage Festival earlier this year, and I had to get on a plane and go home, and so I missed it. So I'm very excited to see this one. And I'm trying to think. I believe I should have had this up before, but I believe this one is also streaming on Tubi. It is. Looks like that's one of the only places it is streaming right now, according to my TV app.
A new
but it is streaming there for free.
Yeah,
so
they just put out the first Blu-ray this year.
Oh, did they?
Mm-hmm. It was only on YouTube.
Is that why they were showing it at Unnamed?
Yeah. They showed it at Unnamed Footage Festival this year because it was going on Blu-ray for the first time, and like the only way that you could watch it for a while was just like a shitty YouTube rip, which is how I saw it. And now they finally, it's like really hard to. It was hard to find for a while, and now it's not, which is really exciting. So I'm very excited that we're watching it because it is an incredible use of another incredible use of POV. Is all I'll say about The Tunnel.
I'm excited.
I'm also excited.
For it. But okay, so who are we talking with on Monday, Mary Beth?
I'm super stoked. We're chatting with Nicole Goebel, who is the host of the Bodies of Horror podcast, and we had an incredible conversation with her about her Scarred for Life pick, Dr. Giggles.
Dr. motherfucking Giggles.
Yes. It's a really good conversation. Nicole has a lot of really cool things to share about disability and like how that relates to this. And it's just, and then we just talk about Dr. Giggles, which is like a wild ass movie. So yeah, that's going to be on Monday. But listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. Did you see anything that we watched this week and have thoughts? Do you have suggestions for found footage movies for us to watch? You can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com. Or reach out to us directly on social media. I'm at MB McAndrews on Twitter and Blue Sky, and at MB.McAndrews on Instagram.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful everywhere.
And obviously follow the podcast everywhere. We're at Scarred Podcast on Twitter, and we are at Scarred for Life Podcast on Instagram and Blue Sky.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And again, we are going to be opening up Patreon very soon, so stay tuned for that.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, Stay creepy.
And until next time.